Good morning, students. Today I am here with one of the chapters of grade 10 from the book Footprints Without Feet. This is chapter number 1 from the book Footprints Without Feet. The name of the chapter is A Triumph of Surgery. Yes, students, this chapter is written by James Harriet. Let us see the title of it. Let us focus on the title of the chapter first. The title is Triumph of Surgery. Let me tell you, a triumph means victory, and surgery means a kind of medical treatment. So we'll be discussing about victory over some medical treatment. What is this? We'll discuss in the chapter. Before that, I'd like to tell you something about the writer James Harriet. Let us know something about him. James Harriet was a British veterinary surgeon and a writer. It means he belonged to Britain, who was a veterinary surgeon and a writer too. He has written many short stories on the basis of his experience as a veterinary doctor. So he has shared his experience through his short stories. He has written this A Triumph of Surgery. This also is a part of his experience that he has shared. This also belongs to, we can say, belongs to animals. So, in this chapter, Triumph of Surgery, there are three characters around whom all the entire story moves. The three characters are, the very first one is Mrs. Pamprey. Mrs. Pamprey, a rich lady who owned a dog named Tricky, the second character of this story. The third character is James Harriet, who is a veterinary doctor and is known to Mrs. Pamprey too. So let us see what happens, how the incidents take place, how the triumph over, how the victory over surgery takes place, and then what happens initially and what happens at the end. Actually, the chapter starts with the stopping of a car of James Harriet when he sees Tricky. James Harriet was quite shocked to see Tricky, as Tricky had put on a lot of weight. And Tricky had put on a lot of weight, and James Harriet was shocked at this because he was a veterinary surgeon and he knew much about animals and their health conditions. He expressed his surprise at Tricky's health condition and advised Tricky's owner, Mrs. Pamprey, to give Tricky some exercise too, to make Tricky do some exercise. Tricky, who was Tricky, as I discussed also, Tricky was a greedy dog owned by Mrs. Pamprey, who loved him very much. Okay. Tricky was a greedy dog. Tricky used to eat all the things whichever is given to eat. Tricky was fed a lot by Mrs. Pamprey, as Pamprey used to love Tricky too much. Harriet had advised about not overfeeding Tricky, but his advice was not taken care properly, by Mrs. Pamprey, and out of love, Mrs. Pamprey kept feeding Tricky continuously, because of which Tricky became excessive fat and lazy. Pamprey gave her, what kind of food was given to Tricky? When Tricky became fat and lazy, Mrs. Pamprey thought there is some problem in, strength of Tricky. So she started giving some extra things to Tricky too. Apart from the regular meal that Tricky used to eat, Tricky was given malt, cod liver, oil and a bowl of Horlicks at night apart from the regular meal. It means Tricky was given regular meal by Mrs. Pamprey, and apart from that, Mrs. Pamprey thought to strengthen Tricky by giving all these external things. A malt is a kind of cereal grain. Cod liver oil is derived from cod fish, and a bowl of Horlicks. So these things were given to Tricky, but this was just opposite to the advice given by James Harriet. Overall, Harriet was, Harriet had given advice, but Tricky had, Mrs. Pamphlet did not follow that, and overall Tricky became excessively fat and lazy. Now, Harriet, now not only this, Tricky's condition continued to decline, and Tricky now stopped, eating too. Just when Harriet had met Tricky, Harriet had compared Tricky with bloated. Overall, Tricky was completely fat and lazy. James Harriet had compared Tricky with a bloated sausages, a leg at each corner. A bloated sausages. You know what? A bloated sausages, it's a kind of food item excessively huge. Okay. So it is, Tricky's body was so fat that it was compared to the bloated sausages by James Harriet. Okay. Harriet knew that Tricky's health condition is not so good, and he is going to get a call very soon, because definitely Tricky will become ill very soon and he will be called for the treatment of Tricky. So he knew about it, and soon the call came. Soon Tricky became ill and Harriet was called, as he was a vet, because Harriet was a veterinary doctor, so he was called by Mrs. Pamphlet. Mrs. Pamphlet, on the other hand, was quite sorrowful to see Tricky's condition, as Tricky had been vomiting and refusing his favorite meals too. So Mrs. Pamphlet was quite sorrowful. James Harriet was called, and when James Harriet was called, he, just to see Tricky, advised Mrs. Pamphlet that Tricky has to be hospitalized for a proper examination of his health conditions, because Tricky had continuously been vomiting, and Tricky had refused to eat anything. So definitely it was continuously, the health condition of Tricky was continuously deteriorating. So because of this, James Harriet advised for a hospitalization of Tricky for at least a fortnight, so that Tricky can be properly kept under observation. Actually, Mrs. Pamphlet did not want to be apart from Tricky, to be away from Tricky, but still it had to be done for the betterment of Tricky. She was crying a lot, she was in tears, but there was no any other option than sending Tricky to the hospital. Tricky was sent to the hospital. It was quite, we can say, painful for Mrs. Pamphlet to be apart from Tricky, but she had no any option. Tricky was hospitalized.